Hey, how y'all doing? Hope you're having a fantastic afternoon. Today's video is gonna be something a little bit different. I've had a bunch of people lately ask me what my thoughts were on a Highlander rework and what I want to see and what I think would be good changes. And so I want to answer that, but I also want to be lazy. And so instead of making my own detailed rework idea list, I am gonna comment on someone else's. So this is from user Omega Scorpion. Posted this on the competitive For Honor subreddit a few days ago. So props to you for making this. I just want to let people know what I think, and I am also, as we go through this, going to comment a little bit both about what I maybe personally would like the most versus what I think is actually the best and what I think would be most optimal for most players. Those are going to be slightly different just because there are some things I might not like to see that I still think would ultimately be a good change overall. So anyway, hope you guys enjoy. If you do, please leave a like, helps out the video a ton. And otherwise, let's go ahead and get into this. I'll also pause it pretty frequently, so if you want to see it unpaused, go ahead and watch through it on your own. All right, so yep, that makes sense. A lot of people, I totally expected to see neutral dodge attacks. That's, yeah. He's showing the Celtic Curse animation for that, which makes sense. So about the dodge attacks, I'm not sure how I feel about it entirely. I think most optimally, yeah, everybody's got to have some form of neutral dodge attack. It is a big problem for Highlander. Highlander can't really punish BP, forward dodge, bash, can't really punish things like Valkyrie sweep, because anything you don't get a guaranteed guard break on a dodge, if Highlander's not in offensive form, you don't really get a punish for that. So those would be good changes, but they're also not changes I really like for his identity. So not really sure, but definitely makes sense. Better forward moving and tracking, and then equalizing the left and the right speed, because yep, he's right. The left is slower right now. Heavy openers. Okay, so heavy openers speed them up and lower the damage, and heavy finishers slow them down slightly. That is something I've heard a lot because Highlander's combo heavies are quite fast, especially for how much damage they do, and so that is a little bit unorthodox. I always thought that even though that makes them very powerful, especially now that they have buffed a little while ago, they buffed the recovery on Highlander's defensive heavy finishers, but at the same time, even though these changes make a lot of sense, I still hate to kind of see the damage go down. I think that Highlander, it's part of his identity. It always was having high damage, and then a lot of that is gone now. He doesn't really have that high damage anymore, but still higher than some, and this would lower that even further. But equalizing or starting to equalize the speed between the opener and the finisher does make good sense. I don't know if he's going to talk about this, but also when he was talking about the Celtic Curse, equalizing the Celtic Curse speed and improving the range, I also think a big point, a super major point on that is reducing the guard break vulnerability. If you reduce the guard break vulnerability on Celtic Curse, that'll buff it a ton. Every feintable heavy can be soft feint into offensive stance. Every attack's recovery can be canceled to offensive stance. Okay, so this is pretty intense. This is further than maybe I would go, but if you do this, this will be like, I don't know, an Orochi level plus buff. Like if you could soft feint every attack, every feintable heavy to offensive stance, that would be Wicked powerful. And I also don't know how they would really implement that from an input perspective. But and then every attack's recovery can be canceled to offensive stance. I did think this was something I had thought of, if even your defensive finisher heavies could be, canceled into offensive stance. That's not any more powerful than, all the dodge recovery cancels that all these heroes are getting in the reworks these days. So I don't think that's overstepping really at all. I think that's fine. But the faintable heavy soft faints, that would be a lot. That would be crazy. Doesn't necessarily mean it's bad crazy, but it'd be pretty wild. But it would definitely make it easier to get in and out of offensive stance. Oh, zone attacks. Okay, so zone attacks, first attack is feigntable and deals 24 damage from 18. Interesting. Feigntable zone attack can also execute. I appreciate the stam. Yes, from 40 stam. Absolutely ridiculous. Every zone attack can be soft feinted to offensive stance, and recovery can also be canceled to offensive stance. I would dig this. I think it's quite a bit to ask for, and I doubt it's likely to happen. That would be a really, really high utility zone. But that would just add more depth to his kit, and Highlander already has it. It would be crazy. He would have so many moves. It would be really awesome, but I don't see it happening. This makes zone attack Highlander's guaranteed guard break follow up. Okay, so I should read that, and allows him to continue offensive stance with it. That would make good sense. It already does work on a guard break, but it's not a very big bonus from a light, especially because it costs so much stamina. It's rarely worth it. So that would be pretty cool. Because I do agree, I don't necessarily want the heavies, the opener defensive form heavies, to become so much faster that you could get one guaranteed on a guard break. I like his slow heavies, as terrible as that is. I know a lot of people would hate me for saying that, but I do like the speed of his slow heavies more or less. Um, maybe 100 milliseconds faster, like this video suggested, or maybe not. It doesn't really matter. But I do think that means he needs something better than what he gets right now in a guard break. And so having this as a guard break option, I think, would make a lot of sense and potentially be really useful. But the other zone attack buffs, I think, are a lot to ask for. Offensive stance, heavies deal 26 from 30 and use 12 stamina from 24. Okay, so we can do a lot more of them, which I really appreciate. I want to back it up just a tiny bit, see the explanation. But the damage, oh, it just hurts. I get it. I get why. I know that the mix-up, if they fix the mix-up and the mix-up actually works, which is obviously going to be part of what this rework is looking to address, and the kick and the grab, you can start to get things more consistently. It has less outs. Then at that point, I think that, yeah, you probably do need to overall reduce the damage, so it's not just a stupid high damage mix-up the entire time. That actually works now. So I'm sure that's a necessary part of it, but I do just weep a bit to see the identity skewed quite so far. Offensive stance top light is 400. Okay, so equalizing all four sides, because right now top light is slower. All offensive stance lights deal 8 damage from 9. Sure, I don't care. That's fine. Change makes all offensive stance lights useful, but keeps damage in check. Continue. So they're not saying let's stop the lights, fam. Let's just take 1 damage off it. Oh, that's funny. All right, offensive stance zone attack, which is unblockable all the way through, but does not have hyper armor. 20, 20, 20, 12, 12, 12. That would be awesome. I think it's a ton to ask for, and I also have no idea how the input would work. Trying to hold offensive stance and yet also do a zone attack with 3 parts, I don't know. It'd be sick, but I doubt it. But I'm all for more moves. Fomorian kick was a guaranteed heavy follow up that deals 20 damage. Softening keeper toss 700 and add hyper armor after 300 milliseconds. All right, so Yeah, this is kind of following like the Centurion logic, right? Where you want to split the risk reward so it's not even, right? Because right now, if you get a kick, you get 30 damage. If you get a kick and do a grab, you get 30 damage. If when you're unblockable mix up, you get 30 damage. Like it's exactly the same, more or less, no matter which path you take. This kind of splits it, so there's a slanted risk reward mix up game for somebody to be playing as a defender. You don't get quite so much on the kick, but then you get hyper armor, kind of like scent punch. So even though it's slow, you still get something. I kind of wonder. So I'm guessing it's only the soft feint caber toss that gets hyper armor. So if you're throwing a raw caber toss, it's probably unarmored. Um, let's see, keeps the kick damage in check, as full damage heavy is a bit too much after bass. Soft feint keeps just a little. Yeah, it all makes sense. It'll be a big adjustment for me, but I have to be honest, I think this does make the most sense. A lot of people have talked about options where, okay, now I can soft feint, into Celtic Curse undodgeable out of kick, or, something else. And I think those are all too involved a solution. And I think adding hyper armor to something like, kick feint grab makes the most sense. I think it's going to be the easiest to implement. I think it's the most likely to be successful and what we're most likely to see. You can trade a tiny bit of damage from, a Tiandi dodge attack or whatever for getting your actual grab off. And then at that point, you're ready to rock. So I appreciate that solution, even though it's going to be a bit for me to adjust to if, this did turn out to be the case. Oh yeah, and that's the end of the proposed Highlander rework. There's also a Shaolin as a second part of this, which I probably won't bother going into in this video. Um, but yeah, if there's anything, I'm trying to think if there's anything that they didn't talk about in this video that I particularly wanted them to. Um, the one big one was, guard break vulnerability on Celtic Curse. I think that's hugely obnoxious and would be a big buff if that was addressed. Um, I did forget, I think Highlander does need a health buff in order to make him more viable for trades. That is one part of his identity I'd like to see become a little bit stronger. Right now, he basically has the health of an assassin and doesn't really have the health to back up really any trading potential. And one more thing I think is also that Highlander, I think, could use his revenge values looked at. I feel that he feeds more revenge right now than is warranted for how much damage he puts out. And then one final last thing is that if, as long as I'm understanding this rework correctly, I don't think it provides any real solution to people being able to unlock roll your kick grab mix up. Um, the only way I can really see to get around that is adding a hard feint option out of the kick grab mix up so you can go into Celtic Curse or something along those lines. However, even without that, I do think that you can more or less make do with using your regular heavy mix up, especially now that there is your unblockable heavy mix up, that is, at least now that there are no more option selects. So I think that mostly covers it. It's not quite a perfect solution, but a hard feint option out of that mix up would be maybe the way to cover that as well. I think most of the other chronic issues are things that were addressed here. All of the various recovery cancels, I would have thought. Most everything. So yeah, really good job, Omega Scorpion. I appreciate you contributing this and allowing me to comment on it in this way. But yeah, I hope everybody enjoyed this video, and leave your thoughts down in the comments as to what you think about these proposed changes and what you might prefer instead. Definitely let me know. And otherwise, take care. Have a good rest of your night, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.